Welcome to the Film Florida podcast. My name is John Lux and I'm the Executive Director of Film Florida. Thanks for downloading this episode of the podcast. Another really important topic today. Before we get started though, please remember to subscribe, rate, and review the Film Florida podcast. If you're not already a member of Film Florida, please consider joining at filmflorida.org. Finally, we still have our Film Florida merchandise page at teespring.com/stores/filmflorida to purchase Film Florida t-shirts, sweatshirts, coffee mugs, and now protective masks too. Joyce Gilliard is a film and television hairstylist and founder of iSAFE TV and Film LLC. Joyce was seriously injured when she was struck by a freight train on the set of Midnight Rider, the incident that killed camera assistant Sarah Jones. Since the tragedy, Joyce has focused her efforts on bringing awareness to safety in the film and television industry. We talked to her about her career, that day on the set of Midnight Rider, and her quest to keep cast and crew safe on set. Joyce was kind enough to do the interview while she was on set, so you may hear a few background interruptions. Here's my conversation with Joyce Gilliard. Thanks for joining us on the podcast today, Joyce.
Thank you for having me.
Absolutely. So I want to start with your origin story.
Well, I am a hairstylist in the TV and film industry, and also I am a new filmmaker. I started out as a hairstylist in New Jersey when I was a hairstylist for Ren's House as a barber. And then I relocated to South Carolina where I worked on Army Wives, the TV series Army Wives. And when I started working on Army Wives, people started to request me more. And then I just started going from production to production. And then I started working as a department head on a lot of shows. And that's how I got my start in, just working in New Jersey and transferring on to South Carolina, where I got I call it my big break in the TV and film industry.
So let's go back even a little bit before then. What made you decide this was the career for you?
I didn't. It just kind of happened. I wanted to be an actress at one point, a singer at one point. So I've always wanted to be in the creative side of the industry. And I always thought I would do something in the movies, but it wasn't something that you can seem to grab, oh, I'm going to be a hairstylist in the films. Well, how does that happen? Right. I didn't know how anything would happen. And I feel like one thing led to another. And that's how the doors started opening, because I put it out in the universe that it was something that I wanted to do. And I felt like God kind of steered me in the right path to becoming a hairstylist for films. But it wasn't something that I just went out and sought. Like, it just kind of happened.
And you referenced your big break. Was that Army Wives?
My big break was when I started to work as a barber for this reality show. But reality and TV is so different. So that's why I say Army Wives was like my big break, because that's when I was able to go in and work as an additional hairstylist. And then I ended up working all the seasons. After I think it was season 2.
Joyce, when you look at your credits, you mentioned Army Wives, but there's a lot of other noticeable titles: The Hunger Games, Banshee, Sleepy Hollow, Outcast, and then there's many others. Do you have a favorite project you've worked on, and why is that your favorite?
Well, I have several favorites. Hunger Games was one of my favorites because of the creative side, being able to create hairstyles out of this world. I love working on period shows. I just worked on one which isn't released yet, which is like one of my favorites as well, called Respect. And that's with Jennifer Hudson. I was an additional hairstylist on that particular show, and just being able to recreate different hairstyles from the different periods was amazing. There's this movie called The Identical that was a period hair show where we changed styles from 1920 to 1980, just interchanging. So I think it's more or less either the creative side where I'm creating or doing period hairstyling.
Joyce, one of the reasons I wanted to have you on was to talk about the film Midnight Rider. In 2014, you were on the set for the first day of filming for the Greg Allman biopic Midnight Rider. Tell us about that day for those that aren't aware.
Well, February 2014, I was on Midnight Rider and we were filming on a railroad trestle. William Hurt was the lead actor in the film, and I was the third hairstylist on the show. William Hurt, he really took to me, and that's why my department head decided she would have me cover him on set. So that's why I ended up being on the railroad trestle with him that day. And when we got on the trestle, it just seemed a little weird, different things because, we didn't have water, we didn't have snacks, just, a medic, little signs that were there that were ignored. And then William Hurt asked the question, what happens if a train comes through? And the first AD said, well, you have like less than, I think, 60 seconds or 90 seconds to get off. And no soon as she said that, we heard a train coming. And the train was so far away, but you heard it. And we decided to get off the trestle. But the train was coming too fast. It came too fast. So I had to decide on what I needed to do to survive. And I ran to the side of the trestle and held on. And as soon as I got to the side of the trestle and held on to the iron girder, the train was already there. And I held on as tight as I could. And the pressure from the train pulled my arm off of the girder and it hit my arm and broke it in half. And I fell and wrapped myself around the cable. And we were filming a dream sequence on the trestle. So the train hit the bed and made the bed shrapnel. And with it making it shrapnel, a sheet from the bed fell directly in front of me. And being that my arm was hit by the train, I was able to grab the sheet and make a tourniquet to stop the bleeding and stop myself from bleeding out. And I was airlifted to the hospital where I had reconstructive surgery, arm surgery. And Sarah Jones, the camera assistant, was killed instantly.
And how long was your rehab for your arm?
About a year. I went back to work too soon. I really rushed it and I shouldn't have, but that's something that I did. But I will say a year. It took, maybe longer, after I got back to work and realized, oh gosh, I really needed to take a little bit of time, especially for the physical and the mental aspect of it. I didn't think the mental part would have been difficult, but it was more difficult than the physical part.
Yeah, that's what I was going to say. The physical part just takes time naturally, but the mental part, there's nothing you can do about that. It just takes however long it's going to take.
Yes. And, like every set I would be on, there's a Sarah. So that automatically is a trigger for me. For the first couple years, just being around a railroad trestle was a trigger, a railroad track, much less a Hera train. Those were like triggers for me with PTSD.
And since then, though, not only have you been able to bounce back personally, but you started iSAFE TV and Film LLC. For those that aren't familiar with the organization, tell us what it is.
So iSAFE TV and Film LLC, it stands for Industry Safety Awareness for Everyone. And I started the nonprofit to bring safety awareness to cast and crew members so that they can be aware of safety. I host panel discussions across the country with iSAFE, where I have crew members, directors, stunt people, anyone within the business be a part of a panel where we can discuss safety.
So Joyce, the organization's been around now for a couple of years. Do you feel like you're making a difference?
Yes, I feel like iSAFE TV and Film has made a lot of difference and still is today. People are contacting me from across the country wanting iSAFE t-shirts, sweatshirts, interviews, panel discussions. I mean, ever since day one, I've been getting the support, and I've seen it grow and grow and grow. And even to have some of the unions back me as far as having iSafe Day on February 20th every year, that shows that I've been making waves as well.
And going back to 2014 when the accident happened, what about it drew you to want to do this? I mean, it's one thing for that to be such a traumatic experience, but you need to take care of yourself. How did you find the strength to say, look, I need to do this for others as well?
You know, it was a hard time for me because I was home and I was upset. I was pissed off. I was mad and angry because of what happened to me. And I just kept saying, I don't want this to happen to anybody else again. And just brainstorming, trying to figure out what can I do to make the world a better place in our film industry. That's when iSafe came to birth. And I didn't know how I was going to do the organization, or I just didn't know, but everything just kind of played itself out, and I just can't explain it. I really can't explain it, but I do know that I'm grateful for all of the support that I've been getting for it, because people now more than ever want to be safe. That's all people talk about. And because they're talking about safety, iSafe always comes up in the conversation.
And I want to make that connection between what you're doing and COVID-19. But one last follow-up on that. Has it been therapeutic for you over the years to be able to do this to help you mentally?
It has been very therapeutic for me to do this, because I get calls all the time from people who say, Joyce, thank you for what you're doing. What you've done has encouraged me to speak up when I'm not feeling safe at work. They'll call me with different stories that's happened, and how a crew member stood up for themselves, how that shot wasn't taken because of iSafe TV and film, how safety meetings are the norm now because of what happened that day. And just because I have the courage to speak up, a lot of people are finding their inside voice to speak up as well.
Joyce, you recently made a film about set safety. Tell us about that.
Yes. So I wrote and produced a film about set safety, which is called Daddy's Home. And Daddy's Home follows the life of a crew member whose name is John Mallory, who loves his job working on a TV and film set, but struggles to work and be home with his family at the same time, and as well as job performance because of the excessive long hours that he works on film sets. So I show the visible aspect of how working 18 hours a day can affect a crew member and the long-term effects of doing that. And that's what Daddy's Home is about. It's a visual of working the long hours and how you're excited when you first start the job. And then after day 8, you're starting to be wary. And then day 20, you're like really, I'm showing all the levels and stages of what happens when we're working on set, and how our bodies are really tired, but we just keep going, and how we struggle and try to find a balance between set life and family life and job performance. Daddy's Home has been entered in film festivals across the country, and I've won a festival internationally. I haven't put it in festivals for awards or anything. I just wanted it to be seen so that people can think a little bit more when they're working on set, and make better choices and be more accountable for their safety as well.
And you alluded to how things have come these days with the pandemic. How has COVID-19 impacted the work of iSafe?
Oh, COVID-19 has impacted the work of iSafe, because now it's bringing iSafe even more to the forefront than ever before. You know, if people didn't know of my organization then, they know now because of COVID, because with the industry, the top word in the industry now is safety. And a lot of people put safety with iSAFE too, because iSAFE is an umbrella that covers all parts of, you know, safety in the industry, safety awareness in the industry. So whether it's COVID, whether it's sleep deprivation, whether it's accidents, tragedies, all of that is under the iSAFE TV and film umbrella.
And Joyce, we're going to include contact information in the podcast description, but for those listening, tell people where and how they can get more information about the organization.
You can find iSAFE TV and film on social media, Facebook and Instagram and Twitter under iSAFE TV and film. And I also have a website, which is isafetvandfilm.com. And you can also contact me directly with my email address, which is joyce@isafetvandfilm@gmail.com.
Excellent. And now iSafe isn't going away, but going back to the original part of your career, what's going on with you? Anything exciting you want to talk about with in that part of the business?
Well, I am working right now on a film set as a hairstylist, and I actually am producing this documentary, COVID Stories by Women. So I'm telling stories of how COVID-19 has affected women across the country. And I'm excited about this documentary, and I look to be doing other things as well, as on the writer, producer, director side.
Thanks for spending some time with us today, Joyce. This is a really important topic, and I'm glad we were able to share your story with the audience. Thanks for being on the Film Florida podcast.
Thank you so much for having me, and thank you for your patience with me at work. But I'm just grateful that I was able to do the interview, and I hope that my interview sheds light on safety and helps to save more lives.
Thanks, Joyce. We appreciate that. Thanks for listening to this episode of the Film Florida podcast. For more information about Film Florida, go to filmflorida.org or visit our social media pages on Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, and LinkedIn. Check out the Film Florida merchandise at teespring.com/stores/Film Florida. And please remember to subscribe, rate, and review the podcast.